What's up, guys? Eric here with MajorLeagueTrading.com, and in tonight's free video, we're going to take a look at a losing position, but how we might actually be able to kind of salvage this position. So, with that being said, I want to recap our idea from yesterday, which was some strength out of the Nasdaq today, and potentially some weakness here, coming out of the Russell. And Nasdaq closes up 0.50% on the day, so 0.5%. And then if we end up taking a look at the Russell here, Russell closes up 0.93% on the day. So a nice move out of the Russell here, was able to break up through that 1917 level here. And overall, just get a really, really nice move to the upside here out of the Russell, right? 24.6 point range on the day. Had a little bit of weakness here early on. This is kind of what I thought was going to get some continuation down here, towards that 1900 level, first thing this morning. And then we just kind of turned on a dime there and took that back higher. So once we kind of saw that, I'm like, okay, cool. The Russell here is telling the picture here we're probably not going lower. So I started looking over at the Nasdaq, and Nasdaq came down really, really close to this 108 quarter level here. And it front ran it, right? We traded 109.50, so a point and a tick, right? So 5 ticks out of the Nasdaq here. We front ran that level and then tried to go lower right down through here later on in the day. I actually thought we were going to come down, retest that 108 quarters, and then from there we could see what would end up happening. But we just kind of turned on a dime here and ripped back to the upside. So overall game plan going into tomorrow with that, I mean, we do have CPI coming out here in the morning. So CPI, core CPI, all this stuff here coming out at 8:30 in the morning. And the thing that still remains untested here is 108 quarters. So I have one game plan for tomorrow in terms of the overall indices here. And that is if we can spike lower initially to 108 quarters in the pre-market session at 8:30 in the morning, then hey, I'm willing to step in for a potential long from that level. Now, if we don't react from that and we get weakness from there in that pre-market session and we open under 108 quarters, then I'm going to be looking for lower prices overall in the indices, right? So I'm not going to be playing any games tomorrow. If we open over one or under 108 quarters, then all bets are off, I think, to the long side here, and we'll look to play this to the downside. Now, speaking of potential longs here, my favorite at the moment is going to be CRM. So CRM here, this was the preferred trade from today. We end up having a couple levels in here at 220.15s and then 219.50s. And you can see we trade, right down into that level, that kind of zone that we had, about a 50, 60 cent zone this morning. We traded right down into that. The morning plan was, hey, buy a little bit off the open, buy a little bit, down into the level, let it get back over the open and let it rip to the upside, right? So as we can see, that didn't happen. We're unable to get back up over the opening print on the day. So I ended up taking a loss on this. So I have a screenshot here. So this is my trades from today. So in CRM, here's the market close, 221.15s. You can see I'm still open here, $275 on this one, but down $490 on the day, right? So overall, excluding that P&L open, I would be down about $750, $800, right? Now, the thing in which I did right in this one, and we'll talk about the Nasdaq in a second. The thing in which I did right in here is that I liked this chart from a swing perspective. So my max risk on the day in this trade, which was my only trade idea for the day, indices excluded, right? I'm allowed to take those on any type of divergence or anything else, right? But for CRM here, I said, okay, I have a max risk on the day of about $1,000, right? Give or take, 5-10% one way or the other. That's roughly what I'm willing to kind of work with there in CRM. So the loss in which I took was on the day trade that I initially picked up, which I was trading the 225 calls for this week. So I did end up taking that loss here on this hard push to the downside in CRM. Actually, I took it out right here. So basically right at the low of the day. Once this broke down through this prior low there, I went ahead and took this position off. and got stopped out of that for, I think it was a $770, $775 loss on the day trade. Now, I sized this appropriately, right? I had $1,000 rough loss on the day that I was willing to risk, and I put 75% of that towards the potential day trade, and the other 25% of that, roughly $250, towards a potential swing trade here. Once I got stopped out of my day trade and we kind of regained a little bit of a mini uptrend right in through here, I went ahead and started to put some of that position on. So that's where you can see that P&L open coming into play there now. So with that one, I did next week's 230 calls, and I'm looking to hold this one here and see if we can get something working tomorrow in CRM. I really, really like this chart. I think it has room up to $231.50 in here, so about 10 points higher. And really the only thing in the way is, kind of clearing this 225 level from back over here on earnings and that gap down. And, we've basically gone sideways, since then. So that was the beginning of June. So we've gone sideways for, 5, almost 6 weeks now. And finally getting that break here today on some news. So I really do like this one. I'm going to continue to hold those 230 calls as long as today's low holds essentially this 218.22 level that I have in place now on the chart. So I like this one. It's good risk reward. We're sitting right here about 221.20s. So we got about a $3 risk under 218.22s for a potential $10 plus target. So right now it's about 3 to 1 from where it's currently sitting at here. And yeah, we'll look to manage this one accordingly. So next up here on the Nasdaq, $65 on the day. I goofed this one, unfortunately. And it is what it is, right? I ended up taking Nasdaq here, small position size, and I used futures options with this as opposed to the actual futures contract, which kind of also added to my reasoning for getting tripped up on this. But I was looking for a move, here from 108 quarters all the way up into 358 quarters. And with this one, I didn't take very big size. I only took one contract on the futures option that I was trading. And I took it right here on the break back over this bar on that divergence, right? Again, it was a little bit of a front run on the level, but I didn't want to potentially miss the whole move. And I wanted to add to this position if it would come down and retest that level. And then it just really never came down, and as you can see, never retested the level. So ultimately, I got hit with a bunch of theta on this position, but as it rallied up here, and then once we pushed into new highs and we made, new highs through the Globex session here, which was right up towards like 240s, I think 240 and a quarter maybe, somewhere up through here, were those highs. Once we pushed up through here and we made those new highs, like this contract I think was, I don't know, I think I was up like $600, $700, $800 on this position for a relatively small contract, right? I think I only had $280 worth of capital tied up in this position. But I was looking at a target that was about 100 points away for this one, which would be about $2,000 in the Nasdaq futures contracts, right? So once that took place, I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and just basically put a break-even trail in this thing. And I was trading the 15-200 strike. And essentially what ended up happening is, once we pulled back and we got this push back down through these lows, 180, that really wiped out a bunch of premium that was built into this thing here. And then as we just went sideways in here, this ultimately just ended up trailing out, for a $65 gain, which is super unfortunate that, I gave back essentially all of those profits. But ultimately the risk reward was still there, right? So I gave back, call it roughly $700. I still had, $2,000, call it $2,100 for easy numbers. Excuse me. I still had a 3 to 1 risk reward ratio to kind of get up to, that 358 targets. And again, I never got an actual real size position into this. I never got the actual entry in which I wanted into this. We were just really close to the area, and I wanted to go ahead and start to build a little bit of a position in this based on my analysis from yesterday. So in hindsight, would it have been great to go ahead and take this off up here at 15,240s, lock in that $700-800, and then, you know, wiped out my CRM loss from this morning, and then, you know, would be slightly green on the day? Yeah, sure. That would be all, you know, fine and dandy, but typically that's not how trading ultimately ends up working out here. So yeah, I wanted to showcase a couple of those things, a couple of things in which I did right on the day, a couple of things in which I did wrong. I talked about this in the Discord here, and I'll wrap it up with this, a little bit longer of a video. Hopefully you guys enjoy. But there were a lot of big movers today, right? So we had like coin here. This was a big mover to the upside. You know, I mean, I totaled like 9.78% on the day, $11.60 worth of range. We had Roku here. This is up 11% on the day, you know, $9 range, just absolutely ripping out, you know, from the open here in a number of these names, right? And it's very easy to, okay, CRM was a really nice gap. I like the potential a lot. It should have done what it, you know, it should have done what it should have done, right? And rallied and, you know, did the whole thing, but it didn't. And it's very easy to go look at this chart or in Roku or in Coin and then look at CRM and the loss that I'm sitting on in there and then go, oh, let me try and catch Coin. Let me try and catch Roku, right? And by that point, you know, I'm not necessarily interested in buying highs in something like this or trying to buy a pullback. And I just knew that mentally for me, that was not going to be the right situation. So there's probably going to be some FOMO, and maybe this is something in which you did today where you had some FOMO. Maybe you traded CRM, maybe you traded something else, and it didn't move as much as some of these other names in which we have on the board today. And then you tried chasing some of those names or some other names trying to make a play. And then ultimately just it ends up not working out very well in your favor. We know how that story goes. So with that, we kept it to CRM, which was the plan, Nasdaq, which was the plan, and all of those things. So with that, I will wrap it up here. Hopefully that helps you guys a little bit of insight into some of the things I was thinking about, the things in which I was doing today, and ultimately, you know, kind of how that shook out. Win or loss, win, lose, or draw on the day here, I still consider this a W for myself because I followed my plan. I did not allow myself to get trapped into that FOMO. And I know that, okay, yeah, I got a $400 loss on the day. Had this trade worked out, it would have been a nice $4,000, $5,000, maybe even $6,000 day in CRM, given that I was risking, you know, about that $1,000. And I'm looking at the potential on this trade was actually up closer to about 8 R's worth of reward on this. So with trims and things like that along the way, it should have been, could have been, probably would have been a really nice day, right, if it worked out. So all I know is that, hey, I'll take a $400 loss on the chin today, and then the next time this trade sets up in the exact same way in which it did today, I'm still going to take that same exact trade. So anyways, that's what I got for this video. Thank you guys so much. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up, hit the like button, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and share it with a friend if you want to. That'd be great too. So take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.